Chapter 3. Rest Stops and Revelations. A few hours into the drive, my back began to ache. That deep, pins and needles pain, as if someone had shoved a crowbar between my vertebrae. My feet tingled and grew heavy, like they were struggling to stay awake. I pulled over at a typical rest stop off I-95 in Delaware, a gas station with 20 pumps, busy and noisy, surrounded by fast food joints like Burger King, Dunkin', and a Sbarro that always seems to have a long line despite their terrible pizza. The smell of burnt coffee, fryer grease, and diesel from idling trucks filled the hallways lined with cheap souvenirs. I didn't need gas or food. All I craved was the simple act of standing up, stretching, and relieving some of the pressure building in my spine. I parked in the farthest corner of the lot, seeking solitude away from the bustling crowd. Preparing to get out of my car, I felt like Larry Bird at the end of his career, hunched over, hurting with each step, needing to lie down after being subbed out because sitting on the bench was too painful. Stepping outside into the biting cold felt like a jolt of electricity surging through every nerve. I kicked my legs out, trying to shake off the tension clinging to me. The sharp air bit into my skin like the sting of cold water splashed on your face when you're half asleep. I started moving around, attempting to loosen up, bending at the waist, twisting side to side, arms hanging like wet laundry. I performed a few stretches from physical therapy, which never seemed effective, but they made me feel like I was doing something. It's funny to think about receiving a disability discharge, despite spending my entire tour working an office desk job. I don't have any heroic story to frame it, just an injury that occurred during routine command PT. What did a damaged back earn me from the Navy? An early discharge, a one-time payment of $10,000, and a few $100s a month, tax-free, for life. It wasn't much, just enough to remind me I'm not entirely broken, but I'm certainly not fresh either. After a few minutes of moving around, I took a deep breath and opened the car door. Climbing back in, I felt the cold still stinging my cheeks. I started the car and cranked up the heat, then popped in my favorite Cameron mixtape, the Purple Tape. In my opinion, this was Cam at his best. Hard, cocky music that only Killer Cam can deliver. He didn't care what anyone thought of him. I always admired his confidence and unapologetic nature. When I needed to get my head right and hype myself up, I turned to Cam, whose flow pumped self-confidence through the speakers. I cracked open a Red Bull, feeling the carbonation sting my throat. The sharp chemical taste gave me a quick jolt of energy. I dropped the empty can into the cup holder and looked at the glove compartment. As I opened it, I immediately saw two bottles, one labeled Vicodin and the other ibuprofen. Just seeing them flipped the switch in me. My hand hesitated, fingers twitching over the Vicodin. That old temptation churned in my chest. The promise of relief felt like a trap I was willing to fall into. One or two Vikes would dull the pain and quiet everything, maybe even for the rest of the trip. I stared long and hard, telling myself, don't be stupid, trying to shake some sense into my mind. Finally, I grabbed the ibuprofen, shook out two pills and dry swallowed them. As they went down, bitter as hell. I slammed the glove box shut as if I could trap the urge inside. Leaning back, I cracked my back one more time and pulled back onto the road. About 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed beside me. D. Rich, call your mother as soon as you get home. That was it. No greetings or warm wishes, just a command. He was always concise, whether as a father, friend, or cop. I quickly typed a will do and tossed the phone back onto the passenger seat. I knew my mom was worried sick. Ever since Erica died, she had become strict about check-ins. I couldn't be impatient with her. She'd lost a part of herself that day. It's often said that burying a child is the worst pain a parent can endure. When your firstborn dies tragically, by suicide, you grasp for control. You track phone calls, memorize the sound of the door opening, and only breathe a sigh of relief when everyone is safe. I check in with her as soon as I arrived at Beach Harbor. She deserved that much. Hell, she deserved a whole lot more. My folks, they're solid, the salt of the earth type. Emma and Friedrich Bell are hardworking, blue-collar folks who earned everything they have. They're married young and had 3 kids before turning 28. D. Rich, as my friends and I affectionately call him, moved to this country when he was 3 years old. He held various jobs before becoming a well-known community police officer in Beach Harbor, where he was dedicated to coaching Little League and chaperoning school trips. He generally follows the rules, except when they're, for lack of a better term, bullshit. My mom? Her father, a World War II hero, tragically died in a construction accident when she was 3. Growing up, her family relied on Social Security and government assistance. Nothing came easily for her, but she persevered, working multiple jobs while finishing her degree to become a nurse. When they had the chance, they moved our family from Nebraska Street to a bigger house as we entered our teenage years. At first, I thought the house needed a lot of work, but Mom and Dad looked happy, like they'd hit the jackpot. I was 10 and Ollie was 8. All I cared about was no longer having to share a room with my brother. Dad rolled up his sleeves, grabbed his toolbox, and dragged me along as his assistant. I held the flashlight, passed tools, knocked down walls, and helped install windows. Every weekend brought a new project. When Dad needed extra help, he called in favors from neighbors and old co-workers. The house became a 10-year project that consumed us, but paid off, transforming into a great home with amazing views of Beach Harbor's bay and the city's fishing pier. 10 years later, the housing market experienced a boom. That house we could barely afford doubled in value. Suddenly, we went from pinching pennies to having options. Mom and Dad sold the house and bought a retirement place in a cheaper, warmer state. They used a substantial portion of their profits to make a down payment on a 2-family house for Ollie and me, planning for us to live upstairs and rent the downstairs to cover the mortgage. On paper, the plan seemed perfect. In reality, Ollie and I have a long history of not coexisting peacefully. We shared a room for most of our childhood and fought constantly. Even in a bigger place with more hiding spots, we found new ways to argue. We're close in age, only 2 years apart, and grew up sharing friends, clothes, and attention. We never quite knew how to live together without fighting. Mom always said we were just like her and Aunt Darcy used to be, constantly beefing. But now, they're like a dynamic duo, best friends who enjoy each other's company. Mom swore it would be the same for us someday, saying, "Give it time. You'll be best friends when you're older." I consider the future. There's no turning back now, no place to go. So I must face these challenges head on. We'll see what's ahead as I continue my long journey home into history and whatever comes next. Cameron is still playing, I'm still driving. My back still aches, but my foot's on the gas. Sharks don't swim backward, and today, neither will I.